Just also surprised he wasn't better prepared for that kind of attack to come.
Let me ask about a lesser-known candidate, author and activist Marianne Williamson. She was the most searched candidate during the Thursday night debate. Google says Williamson's search interest surged every time she spoke on stage. Her answers mostly calling for leading with love. Let's just listen to a sample.
I'll tell you one thing. It's really nice if we got all these plans, but if you think we're going to beat Donald Trump by just having all these plans, you got another thing coming. Because he didn't win by saying he had a plan. He won by simply saying, "Make America great again."
Essie, does she make a point about policy versus message?
Could you find points in there? I don't know. I mean, Marianne Williamson is a gift. I want her to run for president for the rest of her life so that we can always have some of these moments. But was she talking about policies? I'm not sure. I think she was talking about sloganeering and
right. But
and
did she make the
branding
point that President Trump won the presidency with the "Make America Great" again? With a slogan?
Is that what we want? We want to do that again? That's not what I want. I don't want another cult of personality character in the White House. I want someone who's serious and who has some experience. I don't want another branding expert to take over the Oval Office.
All right, ladies.
But I think
Karen,
go
ahead real quick.
Sure. I think we have to recognize, though, that when President Trump was talking about "Make America Great Again," right, it is more than a slogan. It also was speaking directly to how people were feeling. We know, there have been now 7 studies in the aftermath of the election that for many of the Trump voters, majority of the Trump voters, there were feelings of fear of change, some fear of, racial change, fear of misogyny, sort of women's role, the changing roles of women in this country. So, because remember during 2016, we kept saying, well, when was this great time when everybody had all this freedom and it was, America is we are always a work in progress. And so I do think the point that she made there, though, was well taken, that he knew how to speak to what voters cared about. And I certainly think for the Democrats, both in the primary and in a general election, we have to be able to learn to speak not just to the what of what people say, but why they feel that way, and show that we've got solutions to address those challenges.
Karen Finney, Essie Cupp, thank you both.
So we saved the best for last. Marianne Williamson introduced herself to millions of Americans this week, and I want more. If you're like me, you watched her Thursday night and asked, where has this been all my life? Here are a couple of her more memorable moments.
My first call is to Prime Minister of New Zealand, who said that her goal is to make New Zealand the place where it's the best place in the world for a child to grow up. And I will tell her girlfriend you were so on, because the United States of America is going to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up. So, Mr. President, if you're listening, I want you to hear me, please. You have harnessed fear for political purposes, and only love can cast that out. So sir, I have a feeling you know what you're doing. I'm going to harness love for political purposes. I will meet you on that field, and sir, love will win.
Her meteoric rise, I mean that literally, she might have arrived at the debate by meteor, was not unnoticed by everyone. She was the most searched name on Google the night of her debate. She earned more than 30,000 new Twitter followers. And on Friday, she was even attracting new donors, Republicans who want her to be at all the future debates. I'm with you. Here's what some folks said on Twitter. Michael Ian Black said, Marianne Williamson for ambassador to Narnia. Luna Malbro said, I don't know if I want Marianne Williamson to be president, but I will move to her commune. And Michael Hobbs, East Coasters, Marianne Williamson, wow, what a kook. West Coasters, a person exactly like her is my medical doctor. Now, don't bother me with unimportant questions. I don't know what Marianne was talking about or what she wants to do as president. That is not the point of Marianne. The point is she will harness love, and that is all you need to know.
I want to get reaction now from one of Biden's 2020 rivals, best-selling author and activist Marianne Williamson. Marianne, thanks for being here. Biden says his opponents don't want to talk about all the things he did as vice president. What do you say to that?
I don't want to talk about Joe Biden. I want to talk about the United States of America. I don't want to talk about anybody's past. I want to talk about the future of our country, where we need to be as people, where our public policy needs to be. So the politics of trying to bring down one candidate, all of that stuff, it's not of great interest to me.
You just qualified for the second Democratic debate in Detroit later this month. Congratulations. Marianne, you got a lot of buzz after the first debate. In fact, you were the most searched candidate on Google, but so far that hasn't necessarily translated into support in the polls. Why do you think that is?
Well, the fact that it hasn't translated into support in the polls that you're looking at doesn't mean that it's not translating into support in every meeting that I'm having, every house party, every place I go in Iowa, every place I go in New Hampshire, where I see crowds, where I'm getting standing ovations. I think it's translating into a lot of support. You know, it's what's happening on the ground in these states. That's where it matters, where the voters are, not necessarily what's happening yet in polls and all of that kind of stuff. Any candidate knows that. We know where it really matters, and that's inside people, whether or not you feel your words are landing. And whether or not your words landed in a particular debate, you know, that's one moment, and it's a long conversation that you're having with the voters, and I feel confident about the conversation that I'm having with the voters in the primary states.
Not all the voters know who you are, and the New York Times just wrote a piece that looks inside. It talks about how a book from 1976 had a big impact on you and your career path and now your candidacy. This book is called A Course in Miracles, and the Times describes that text as, quote, a curious New York scripture that arose during the heady metaphysical counterculture of the 1960s. It is taken by its readers as a genuine gospel produced by a Manhattan doctor who believed she was channeling new revelations from Jesus Christ himself. How has this book influenced your life and your vision for America?
Well, first of all, I think that's a deep misrepresentation of this book. This book is not a religion. There's no doctrine. There's no dogma. It's a book that talks about universal spiritual themes of inner peace and forgiveness and love. And those universal spiritual themes are in all the great religious and spiritual systems of the world. And as a woman, understanding more deeply what love means in my life, how to forgive, how to be more giving, more about giving than taking, how to be of service, how to try to live my life as a woman in greater relationship, deeper relationship with the people around me, what it means to live in justice and in mercy and in love, whether I'm finding it from my own religious tradition of Judaism, whether I'm finding it from the Course in Miracles, whether I'm finding it from Hinduism, whether I'm finding it reading in Buddhism. I studied comparative religion and philosophy when I was in college. I started taking religion and spirituality classes when I was in high school. And we live in a country where that kind of religious and spiritual seeking is common. This is America. We're a very religious nation. So this is not weird. And no matter how many times people want to act like it's weird that somebody believes in God, weird that somebody tries to live a more forgiving or loving life, I think our public policy could use a little dose of love, a dose of moral and ethical consideration. Nobody should be apologizing for the fact we're trying to figure out and to live in more practical ways a more loving existence.
I can appreciate where you're coming from. I was just asking the question about, you know, how that particular book influenced you and how it may influence your vision for the country. That's where I was coming from in my questioning there. I want to ask you about another article that was prominent this week that I know you took issue with. Of course, I'm talking about the Annie Leibovitz Vogue photo shoot and the accompanying article that featured all the Democratic women running for president except for you. And here's the version you put out with yourself strategically inserted into the portrait above their heads. Do you feel like you're not being taken seriously or treated as a legitimate candidate? How did this situation make you feel?
Well, first of all, I did not put out that meme. I saw it on the internet because there's so many memes right now with everything regarding my candidacy, regarding my debate performance, regarding the Leibovitz. And so when I was doing one of those things on your Instagram where you post several things, I posted quite a few memes. I just saw that one on the internet. I have not made any memes about that. So I saw a meme, the one you're talking about, I saw a meme with my face. Listen, I think all of the women who are running for president are lovely. I have met them all. I have great respect for them all. And Vogue magazine did what Vogue magazine did. I certainly don't have an issue with any of the women. I think it is significant when something like a Vogue magazine so clearly implies that only they are qualified. That's definitely a dismissal. But this was not some big thing in my life. And like I said, I'm not the one who made the meme.
Has Vogue called you to do a follow-up piece?
No.
No. A lot of people know you as Oprah's spiritual advisor. Who are your closest advisors?
Well, first of all, I don't think that I'm Oprah's spiritual advisor any more than I could say that she's been my spiritual advisor, like she's been a spiritual advisor in many ways to an entire generation of Americans. I think the fact that she reads someone's book and has been so generous in her support of my books doesn't mean that she sees me as an advisor. My own advisors, I think my first and foremost would be my own parents, who are no longer with us. I think my daughter, my 29-year-old daughter, is certainly someone who I look to for advice. It's a very interesting thing, the way that happens as your children become adults themselves. I have close friends. I have close colleagues. You know at a certain point in your life who you want to listen to, who, when they text with feedback, I want to hear what they have to say. I have those people in my life just like everybody does.
You know you've made it to the national stage when you have SNL's Kate McKinnon impersonating you. And here's one of her takes on a moment from the debate.
My first call is to Prime Minister of New Zealand, who said that her goal is to make New Zealand the place where it's the best place in the world for a child to grow up. And I will tell her girlfriend, you are so on.
And I said to the president of New Zealand, I said, girlfriend, you're so on. And I would say to Donald Trump, boyfriend, you chill. Thank you.
We've seen presidents who have embraced impersonations. We've seen Donald Trump, who has responded with fury at Alec Baldwin's treatment of him. How did you feel about that?
Listen, I understand. I was laughing. I was down on the floor laughing at some of that stuff as much as the next person was. Kate McKinnon, I was laughing. The memes, I was laughing. And I also understand that some of it's justified. I mean, I've never done that before. Some of my expressions were awkward, but there was substance to what I was saying. And I think that people understand that also. I was talking about the fact that just as New Zealand, the Prime Minister of New Zealand has said she wants New Zealand to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up, I want the United States to also be the best place in the world for every child here to grow up. So I can laugh. You know, laughter is a good thing. This is democracy. That's cool. I didn't find it was malevolent. And we all need to laugh, especially since these are such serious times. We can use a good laugh every once in a while.
2020 candidate and author of the book, The Politics of Love, Marianne Williamson. Great to have you with us. I hope you'll come back and continue to share your ideas for the country. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.